It's amazing how some people in an industry, like the medical industry, guys are working so hard at what they're doing that they don't actually realize that, in fact, there's a huge investment opportunity within their own industry. It's so progressive, it's so innovative, and things are happening, but they're so caught up in their day-to-day lives that they don't realize that there's a huge opportunity to invest in their own industry. Here to shed some light on the subject is Liron Mazor. Liron, thank you for joining me on scottcundill.com.
Scott, thanks. It's great to be here. And I've always loved listening to you, and I love spending the time with you. I find you so knowledgeable and with so much to share. So it's great we can actually use the time to share ideas together.
Yeah, thanks, Liron. Well, this time you're the expert, let's face it. And you're right, there is so much happening in the world at the moment, biotech, medical buildings, and incredible innovation that's happening. But so many doctors, medical practitioners, they don't even realize how lucrative their own industry is. Tell us about it.
Geez, Scott, you're right on the mark there. It's quite amazing. I'll give you a quick example is medical buildings. And we can talk through about some of the innovation that people can invest in as well. But medical buildings, if you think about it, most doctors or medical practitioners actually end up staying where they've been for many, many years. They don't move. And that's any doctor or medical practitioner in the world. So when you're looking at it from an investment perspective, to be able to have that specific type of person set out as a tenant is unbelievable, because that's really what you want. You want to know that your tenants are going to be there in the long term. Now, when we look at medical buildings, you can think of any hospital, or specifically in South Africa, we've got hospitals that have also got medical practices attached to them. And now those are amazing investments. But now most doctors don't really get a chance to invest in those. We've identified specifically in America as being one of the best opportunities for medical buildings. Why we like them so much is, one is because of the size of the American market. Two, also because from a return perspective, you're looking at close to about 8% in dollars. And then you're looking at a 5-year term normally for an investment. And after that, you're looking at a capital gain when you sell the building of around 25%. Overall, that gives you a total return of close to 12% every year. Now, that's quite phenomenal, especially when you're looking at it from today's market, where there's so much volatility in the stock market. So I, as a medical practitioner, don't necessarily own where I'm renting. I'm more of a tenant. Now, that's such a wasted loss and such a wasted opportunity. Granted, not everybody can, and I really, really accept that. But to not then at least look for some sort of investment within that industry that is so stable because you understand it, because you're in that industry yourself, is such a pity not to be able to take advantage of.
So Liron, in terms of medical buildings, and maybe you can branch out into other innovations from there, but I mean, are these hospitals, medical buildings? I mean, is it a growth market? Are they becoming more innovative? And another question linked to that was, quite rightly what you said. If I'm a doctor, I'm kind of renting. I'm a tenant in my own space, which I could be also earning money from. Just tell us about how the overseas market and the overseas tenancy works, and then tell us about the innovation that's actually happening within these medical buildings.
So what we're finding in America is that many doctors have been employed by the hospitals directly. But as they continue to grow their practices, they find that they're actually outgrowing the hospital. They don't need to be with the hospital anymore. And also they can actually make a lot more money being in their own private practices. So you're finding a lot of medical buildings are starting to come up around the hospitals. They could have been office buildings that have now been converted to medical buildings. And from that perspective, it's really a great opportunity, because one is doctors get to be able to build their own business, to be able to expand and grow exactly the way they need to, while at the same time, I as an investor get an opportunity to invest in them or their practices, because I know that they're going to be there for longevity. In terms of innovation, that's one of the things that we're actually quite strict on when we're looking for our tenants. The reason being is because we understand with today's innovation, specifically medically, there are a lot of changes coming ahead. And we're trying to find out who and what the latest trends are, specifically in the world, around medical practitioners or medical ideas. For example, there's ideas now coming out of 3D printing of organs. So if you, God forbid, need an organ transplant, you can actually get it 3D printed. That's some of the technology that's being developed at the moment. So when you're doing that, you're saying, great, well, these are the tenants that I want to be able to start now bringing into the building so I can ensure longevity. Some doctors are practicing medical operations from a distance. So we're making sure that the buildings that we've got have got some of the most advanced internet connections in the world, sort of military grade. which comes at a cost to us, but adds huge value then to the property. The reason we do that is because then any doctor can access any patient from anywhere in the world purely by going through the internet. So these types of innovations are always what we're trying to understand, what we're trying to be ahead of, and making sure we're bringing them into our buildings.
Sure, that's so interesting, especially around the 3D organ printing. Well, let's carry on with that. So what other innovations are happening within the medical sphere?
So I think that there's so many innovations going on all the time. And if I can then move across to maybe the stock market, one of the challenges I've got as a financial planner and a wealth manager is saying, where do I put my clients and how do I know what's going to be the best opportunity for them? And then there's always a cost, because if we look at the cost that or the monthly cost of investing, or the annual cost of investing rather, it becomes quite expensive. We've spent a lot of research within my business and with the fellow associated wealth planners trying to find the right opportunities for our clients, and we've identified index funds. Index funds aren't necessarily the best and the ultimate option. It is combined with many other different alternatives. But what I do love about it is that the benefit of going into an index funds, and the index always chooses the best company. So the minute a company doesn't perform well, they actually come out of the index automatically. So in effect, I've got a way of sourcing what the best companies are and making sure that if they're not performing, that they're automatically being changed to the next upcoming company. If I'm doing that by myself, that's a lot of research and a lot of time that I have to do, and there's a lot of cost associated with that. And that's going to affect your portfolio in one way or another. What we found also from historical research is actually seeing that close to 80% of index funds outperform fund managers. That's a big percentage. What we then look for within the index world is, because now the index world become a lot more advanced and a lot more exciting, is we then try and say, okay, great. Where now can we find the advancements in medical care? And how do we then invest in one specific index that focuses on medical care and the advancements going on in medical care that we can then leverage off for the benefit of our clients? And there's different indices that we've got, and those indices at the moment are performing close to about 20% in dollars every year, just so you can understand the power and the excitement within that industry at the moment. Now, 20% in dollars, in this specific environment isn't necessarily the easiest thing to achieve. So to be able to have investments that can do that, geez, that's great for my clients. And the fact that we're getting into medical innovation is even more exciting.
Sure, Liron, it really is exciting. And I completely agree with you about how, so many of us are so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we don't even realize that our own industry is flourishing and we can invest in our own industry. So thank you very much. It's been really interesting. I'm sure you can carry on talking about this for ages, but I know you prefer to speak one-on-one with your clients because you're so tailor-made, to each specific client that you deal with. And on that note, just tell us a bit about you and tell us a bit about Greengrass.
So Greengrass Wealth Management, I've been in the industry for close to almost 19 years now. I've got 3 qualifications, all in finance. I've always tried to look at doing things differently and trying to find ways to really create wealth for my clients from a long-term perspective. And when I'm sitting down with clients, I really try and identify what 4 simple questions are and what they mean to them in their lives. Because once you can identify the answers to those questions, you can really create and establish a very long-term plan. So what are those 4 questions? They're simple questions. Number 1, am I going to have enough money to live off in retirement? If you're not clear on how much it is that you need and where you're going, you're never going to be able to get there. So that number can vary by each individual. It's got a completely different plan. The second question that I try and ask is, well, how much money does your money need to grow at now and at retirement in order to be able to reach those objectives? And again, we're just getting clarity of where are we going, and simple. The third question I ask is, okay, well, are you on track every year to be able to achieve those objectives? If you are, brilliant. If you aren't, okay, what needs to be adjusted? Now, if you're not sure what those parameters are, you're never going to be able to know the ultimate question, which is on everybody's mind. Am I going to have enough money at retirement? Obviously, you want to make sure you do, but you don't really know. These questions answer them for you with a very high level of probability. The last question that I always ask is, well, are you investing in your current industry? Are you making sure that you understand where the opportunities lie to be able to get the best benefit? I take these questions and I build boutique individual investment plans for my clients. The plan gives you cash flows that writes out exactly how much you need to achieve each year after we've set out a specific growth for you. And then we measure it every quarter and then annually. So we can always make sure we're always on track because we know where you need to get to, and we can make sure you're on track to be able to get those objectives. That's often what I find is my unique offering, because not everybody necessarily does that. And my other unique offering is that I am independent and I am forward thinking, because I want to try and say, great, I don't want to be reliant or stuck to one company. I want to know that I can invest anywhere. And the second thing is, well, how do I then bring in the latest trends and the latest ideas? For example, Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin and the likes, are they worthwhile investing in or aren't they? Now, I'm a bit limited at times from a regulation point of view, what the regulations do and don't allow me to do, but I still try and make sure that we discuss it with my clients. Now, once we've built an investment plan and we focus on a specific growth, it's indifferent where we invest. The question is, have we achieved our growth for that year? And as long as we've done that, great. We're on track and you've got a high probability of knowing that you're going to be spot on when it comes to retirement.
Liron, thank you very much. It's been really insightful. To get hold of Liron, just check out his details in the bottom here for Greengrass Wealth Management. And yeah, Liron, as always, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining me on scottcundill.com.
Thanks, Scott. Great chatting as always. Nice to see you again.